All right, welcome everybody to BLP number 48, too short of 50 cent, and we are ready to rock with a great little show for you today. So I'm all flying solo right now. Matt might be dropping in a little bit later. I had to do a little bit earlier recording of the show today because I've got a baseball game I got to get out to. It's a away game. I got to pick up a couple of the players, get things ready. So got to do a little bit early of a show today, but that's okay. Same great show, same great content. All right. So to get things rolling before we get started, let's hear from one of our great sponsors, Scribe, remote live scribe services. So are you a practice that, let's say your providers, your doctors, your physicians, they're falling behind. Maybe their morale's low because, man, they're seeing so many patients every day. They can't keep up with all the data and paperwork they're creating. And the EHR is just slowing them down. It hinders your ability to see more patients, hinders your ability to bill out claims faster if those notes aren't done or aren't done quick enough. And maybe you're just a doctor, a single practice doctor, and your days are full and you want to spend more time at home with your family or maybe see more patients. Having a remote scribe can really be a game changer for you. And there's no better service to work with than PanaHealth's Scribe service. So if this sounds like you, and if you need help seeing more patients, creating more time and lifestyle for yourself as a medical provider or physician, don't hesitate to look us up. Go to www.panahealthcaresolutions.com/medical-scribe-services to learn more about how a remote medical scribe from Scribe could help you. All right. Let's get rolling into the first segment on the business line today. Couple things, no meetings on the books today. Just spent a lot of time organizing our pipeline, looking at, how much MRR potential do we have out there? Where can we project out to be by the end of this summer? Things are looking pretty good. Right now we've got about 10K a month in MRR. That's looking like it's probably about 75 to 85% chance of closing here in the next couple weeks. So that's great. Always great to add more IT MRR. On the Scribe and RCM side, we've got about a good solid 21K. And a little bit softer of a projection is a big Scribe opportunity that wouldn't roll this much out from the beginning, but it has the potential of about a 67K a month deal. On the front end, it'd probably be around 3 or 4 or 5, depending on how many providers they wanted to trial with to go. But if we did them all or a significant portion of their providers, it could be a big deal. So that's some solid MRR. That's going to put us back where we were before we lost some big business here over the last year. And that happens in business. So anyway, that's exciting stuff. Also, talked about a little bit the other day. We've got a good, exciting IT after hours remote support lead that we're working. And that could be a good foot in the door with a hospital there. Wouldn't be a huge opportunity, I don't think, for overnight support, but, just to get in at that ground level remote, third shift support for emergency services and the like at a hospital would be huge because that could open the door to doing, their full daytime remote support because they don't have a staff that can support it all right now. So exciting stuff for sure. Business is rocking and rolling. Don't have an employee to highlight today, but I'm working on that. So I've got our leaders and our managers around the company on notice to let me know who's doing an awesome job. Who are they getting positive feedback from clients? Because I want to highlight them. I want to talk about them. I want to congratulate them for doing such a great job for us. Moving on to some current event kind of stuff on the Pulse. A couple things going on, and one of them sounds like this TikTok deadline might be extended for the company over in China that owns TikTok. It's interesting to see the sides and how they kind of approach this. So, on the left side of the political aisle, people might be saying, hey, you got to you gotta, ban TikTok. They are, they provide misinformation and national security risks and things like that, which is so interesting to me because when I was younger, 30 years ago, that was flip-flopped. It was always the left or the liberal side of the aisle that, well, to some degree, that wanted to, that was more about the kind of the freedoms of those kind of things and, live and let live kind of a deal. Regulate, but live and let live. And now you've got here on the other side, the right side is saying, hey, we want you guys to stay here. We want to cut a deal and we want some of the action on it. And then from a neutral's perspective, I think it's really about balancing economic stability and government oversight, right? It's like, hey, I don't want the government in my pocket, but at the same time, I don't want a foreign government in my pocket too, mining my data and telling me things that aren't real and so on and so forth. I think the best policy is just not to spend a whole lot of time on it, period. Every once in a while, I'll get a funny TikTok video. I think it's funny, but I don't have it on my phone. I don't go to it on my computer. You won't find me kind of getting in a doom scroll kind of thing. Sometimes that happens to me on like Facebook or YouTube, and I find myself, I got to snap out of it and knock that stuff off. But either way, I talked about this over a year ago, probably going on 2 years ago now when it first kind of came down from the previous government administration that they were going to ban it. And I was like, I don't like the fact that it's mining data. It's from another government, so on and so forth. But I'm of the opinion that, hey, if you don't want it to know your information, or you don't want it to know your kids' information, then don't let them put it on their phones. Heck, don't give your kids phones in the first place if they can't afford to pay for it themselves, right? That's my policy. And same thing with me. Like if I'm not putting Temu, I'm not putting TikTok, I'm not putting those things on my phone. It's dirty. So not doing it. You find all the things that end up on TikTok on the other things anyway. So whatever. Anyway, other big headline looks like Medicaid is looking at some possible cuts since, the right side of the aisle has more sway when it comes to the executive branch as well as some of the lawmaking branches. They're looking at possible cuts. And what it says here is a possibility of about $800 billion in cuts. I don't know what the total, that's via NPR.org. NPR is very left-leaning. It's very hard to get all angles anywhere. So I'm trying to kind of not ride the middle. I'm not a fence sitter. I have my opinions, but it doesn't mean that's all I'm going to share. The left's angle on this is Medicaid's the safety net, cuts threaten public health. The right's angle is fiscal responsibility demands program cuts. And the neutral side might say it's complex and critical conversation. It's healthcare economics, whatever. But my opinion is, my political view on this is it's way over allocated for sure. It's interesting. Medicare, Medicaid, food stamps, welfare, all these kind of things. And I have to be careful when I talk about these kind of things because I don't want it to come across as that I'm non-empathetic and I don't care about people. Definitely a guy, I care about things more than people. It's just something I have to battle. But I care about people for sure. I've been the recipient of a lot of those things throughout my life. I know they have value. But unfettered access that doesn't have proper oversight, that money just goes out, incentivization to be a part of these programs, because if the more people you have dependent on them, the more the program is needed, therefore the more jobs are needed, and it's ugly. And my opinion, there's not enough of the government program, and there's definitely not enough of the program that we as civilians of our country have a responsibility to take care of our neighbor in one way or another, right? What happens, in my opinion, too much is too many of us say, hey, that's the government's job to do. People who have needs, who can't eat, who can't get around, who might be handicapped, who have whatever, That's the government's job to worry about. They'll take care of them and they'll do a good job. I think if we poured over the truth, even if we disagreed on how it should be done, we could all agree that the government typically doesn't do a great job of it. I think churches do a better job of it. I think to some degree, nonprofits do a better job of it, but a lot of times they're so politically backed with their funding that they care more about pleasing those that fund them than they do about serving the people they serve. That was my experience having an education in nonprofit administration and working for multiple nonprofits. It comes down to whether it's small, local, larger national organizations. You do what your board and your people that give you money tell you to do, and then you mask it in a way that says you're helping the people. It's not. I'm a little jaded there. I got a sour taste in my mouth about that, but that's what happens a lot. Not all the time, but in this sense, I really think that it shouldn't be our government's job to feed people. It shouldn't be our government's job to give people health care. And I don't think it should be our government's job to give people housing. I don't think the government should be involved in any of that. I think the government should be involved in protecting us from outside powers and inside powers, from those of us who would harm each other and those of us outside that would harm us. I don't feel like it should be our government's job to run our economy, those kind of things. They can be involved and they can regulate and play the umpire or referee, but that's not what happens these days. I think as humans, as in my opinion, created beings, that we should care about one another, and it should be a priority for us in our communities to give back a portion of what we earn to help those kind of things. I don't think it should be via coercion. I don't think it should be via taxes. I think we should have an internal motivation, and it can be hard. Sometimes that needs to be your neighbor telling you not to be a knucklehead and to get involved and to help out, and for me to not be offended by my neighbor. That's my thought on it. I could do a whole show on that, but either way, I think if there's a program like Medicare, like Medicaid, whatever it has to be, I believe it has to be solvent. It can't exist for the sake of existing, even if it implodes on itself. And you just got to keep printing fake money or putting money into it because there's this need. Because what happens is the need will continue to grow because the need is not being addressed. I think we all know that simply feeding someone who is hungry does not solve the problem. It helps them survive to the next meal or the next day. It does not help them learn how to feed themselves. And sometimes, I don't know what the numbers are, sometimes people want to know how to feed themselves. Sometimes they don't because they've given up. And that can be a whole nother thing to address. But either way, doesn't mean I don't care. But I do think we could do a better job of this. And a better job of if we're talking about Medicaid, look at the medical industry. If you follow the money, the medical industry almost keeps us unhealthy, so that it funds itself, right? So, why do we have so much Medicare and Medicaid need? It's not because there are more people than they used to be. It's because we're significantly less healthy. We have so many things that we can spend our time doing that keep us less healthy, and so many options of things to put in our body or on our body or wash our body with that make us worse off. Now we expect the government, who's not the sovereign creator of life, to be the end-all be-all provider of things that keeps us alive. I just don't think it's long-term sustainable, and it tears us apart, honestly. So anyway, moving on, not trying to get down an ugly road there, but it is what it is. So moving on, next segment, Game 5 NBA Finals happened last night, and OKC pulled it out. OKC looks significantly better. The last two games, the first team in the series to win 2 games in a row. I think they're going to win it. I don't want them to win it. I'm pulling for Indiana. I really don't have a dog in the fight. I know Matt, he's not here. He's pulling for Indiana too. I think I'm not going to be any less happy if OKC. I don't have any money on there's nothing back it. Those are the guys that I picked. But I don't think they're going to win. I could totally be wrong. I often am, as my wife loves to tell me, and my kids love to tell me. But, the eyeball test says that OKC is going to probably win the next game. Halliburton's hurt. I don't know about injured, but he's hurt. He's experiencing calf tightness. That is hard. Any athlete knows, whether you're young or you're a professional or amateur professional, when muscles aren't functioning properly, even if they aren't particularly injured, it's hard to play at your highest game, especially in a sport where you're constantly running back and forth and you're jumping. You've got to explode, and your calves are responsible for that. So there's definitely things that medical teams for the team can do to help him out. They don't play again until tomorrow. This could be something where, it could be spasms or tightness that they could stem him up, and, he could be good to go and be fine. But he was 0 for 6 in the first half, and, he was laying bricks like his name was Angel Reese. So, 32 points OKC converted off of 23 turnovers. That's not the worst turnover in number that Indiana's had. In fact, their worst was 25, and they won that game. But the points that were converted off the turnovers were much less. 32 points off of 23 turnovers. You're not winning that game unless you're just killing it. And when you can't score and you're getting outscored on the bench, you're not going to win that game. So it's not looking great for Indiana right now, and I'm kind of sad about that. I like being right in my picks. I generally like to pick the underdog, and more often than not, the underdog is not going to win. I just really like to pick the underdog, be right, and see, that Cinderella thing happen. So that's cool. Yeah, I think, I was some of the game where some of the turnovers were just silly, especially closer to the end of the game. You can't keep momentum. You can't win a game when you're just making terrible passes when your guys aren't even looking that direction. That's like, high school, middle school basketball right there. It's just, you're not communicating. You're obviously out of your game. So, game's back in Indianapolis on Wednesday. If Indianapolis can pull it out, Game 7 will be back in OKC. We'll see. I just think it's done. I think it's going to be OKC in 6. We'll see when we record on Thursday if I was right or wrong. All right. Last topic of the day. It's just meant to be kind of an open forum again. Not a whole lot going on. I got a baseball game tonight. That'll be fun. Our guys are really showing some improvement. We're still looking for our first win. Like I said the other day, our scrimmage yesterday showed me I pitched 6 different pitchers. Each one did relatively good compared to what our guys have done previous games. So I now know I have a few more pitchers that I can play. I don't have to stick with guys as long. I can put guys in for an inning or two, and we can stay competitive, I think, that way. And it'll possibly keep our competitors from, really getting a bead on, pitching timing and stuff like that, seeing the same pitcher more than once. So we'll see. I know we're playing a good team tonight. They're another county team that's going to probably be, they're probably just going to be a powerhouse. But we'll see. We'll see how we do. This may be the last game that I coach this season where I bat the entire team. Maybe I won't. We'll see what they're doing. If they're batting the lineup, I'll bat the lineup. It's really going to disappoint some kids. They're not used to that. But listen, these are young men. These are 13, 14-year-old boys. I think they can handle it. We got to start getting used to playing more competitively, and it's really hard to be competitive when you're batting 17 guys. And the bottom, everybody's got a bottom of their order, maybe 1 or 2 guys that aren't great or 3 guys that aren't super, but, they can get on base with a good eye. In this case, we've got guys on the back end that when they just, even if they've got good eyes and they can get on base by walking or even getting a hit, to consistently 7 guys in a row at the bottom of your order, it's just not a recipe for winning games that way. Anything else on the docket? That is about it for that. I'm just see right here. So, what else? Do I have anything else? No, I think that's about it. So, episode 48 in the books. I appreciate everybody tuning in. Matt didn't make it in. That's okay. I know he was in the middle of an appointment. He was going to try to come in closer to the end of the show, but I got to wrap things up, get out of here, and get back on the road to get ready for tonight's game. So thanks everybody joining us for the Daily BLP episode 48. Brian is out. Take care, guys.